had an Instagram for my drag account, but I would always like forget to be posting my shows because I was working a lot. And yeah, I really didn't have the time and space and spoons to be connecting with community as much as I wanted to, as much as I desperately wanted to, because yeah, I was just like, I want to be friends with all the drag people, but I just didn't have the space in my life. And the pandemic is when I was really experimenting more and like allowing myself to practice doing more clean looks or doing more like high femme looks and wearing wigs too. And part of the reason why I still identify as a king is because like kings can look this way, right?
Right.
Kings don't have to only always have beards and mustaches. And it kind of goes back to like how I felt really pressured to like cut off all my hair as soon as I started doing drag because I wanted, partially because I wanted to look a certain way, right? And I was like, oh, it's so hard to tie up my hair. But also because of the pressure. And I feel like it's such an awesome thing to see that so many more drag people, like even people who maybe used to be really binary and rigid in their understandings of drag, are becoming more open and accepting and realizing that there's so much. So I guess the biggest change is like I started wearing wigs and eyelashes, which not that I wouldn't have worn them before, it's just I never had the time. I was working a job that I was so drained. I worked like 6 days a week, sometimes 7. And would always be, sometimes I had to leave work early to get to the drag gig because I worked really late. So yeah, I just wasn't giving myself the proper time and space that I deserved to explore this and to really create as my full self.
Yeah. And how much do you think your like gender identity played into that identity of your king and kind of that blurring, if you will, of the binary, like I guess getting out of that binary of the kingness? Did your personal gender play a role in that, do you think?
I guess so. I mean, I've now come to a place where I identify as trans and I also identify as non-binary and just fluid in general, because everything is fluid. Sexuality is fluid. Gender is fluid. And I feel like, yeah, like kind of moving into a space where I wanted to really like address myself and my internalized femphobia is what I would call that, right? Of like my childhood of like, oh, well, I'm a king now. I've cut my hair short. Now I have to dress masculine. Now I have to be a butch lesbian. Like, seriously, I was like, okay, like now I look a certain way. Do I have to, you know, is this now who I am? And yeah, really realizing that it's like I had a lot of internalized misogyny and stuff I needed to work out. And I love dressing up. I love wearing wigs, but I didn't allow myself to wear them for so long because of everything that I thought, right? Which is so silly. In my personal style, I feel I've always had a style that is like drag. Like, honestly, I've only probably like bought things specifically for drag like 5 times, but a lot of my clothes are really like are thrifted. So I have a lot of like funky blazers and like jackets, and I love fun patterns. So I was like, well, I already got the wardrobe. Now I just gotta learn how to do wigs and eyelashes.
Right. I was a bearded queen when I first started doing drag. So
yeah, I scrolled back on your Instagram.
Yeah, so removing it about a year ago was, you know, it was kind of a thing.